The station master gave her a wary look, lowering his voice. He didn't come for you, ma'am. He came for supplies. But since you're bound for Elk Hollow, and he's the only one headin' that way before the snow sets in, you best ask him for a ride. Just mind yourself. There's things about that man best left unasked. Clara's pulse quickened, but she forced a smile and started toward the waiting horseman. Snow whispered beneath her boots, the crunch of it loud in the silence between them. The closer she came, the more she could see him, broad shoulders beneath a weathered coat, a scar cutting through the stubble on his jaw, and eyes like winter, pale, cold, and watchful. He spoke before she did. You the teacher? His voice was low, rough, and seemed to come from somewhere deep within the mountains themselves. Yes, she said, lifting her chin. Clara Winslow. From Boston. I was told. You weren't told much, I reckon, he interrupted, sliding off his horse in one easy motion. You're a week late. School started without you. Clara blinked, stung. There was a delay on the line. Delays don't matter much up here, he said flatly, adjusting the saddle. Weather runs the schedule, not trains. He turned, as if to leave her standing there. But something in her face must have stopped him, perhaps the exhaustion, perhaps the faint tremble in her hands. He sighed. You got a place to stay in Elk Hollow. Yes. The boarding house, I believe. He gave a curt nod. Then mount up. We've got a long ride. Clara hesitated. I don't ride much. His brow arched slightly. Then you'll learn fast. He swung up into the saddle and held out a hand. For a heartbeat, she considered turning back toward the station. But there was no other road, no other choice. She placed her gloved hand in his, surprised by the roughness of his palm, warm, alive, real. He pulled her up behind him as if she weighed nothing, and the horse started forward with a jolt that made her gasp. They rode in silence, snow drifting from the high peaks like feathers. After a time, Clara gathered her courage. Mr. Crow, she said softly, the station master said people talk about you. I hope you won't mind if I don't listen to gossip. He didn't answer at first. His shoulders tensed, his gaze fixed on the trail ahead. Gossip's the only thing that travels faster than the wind up here, he said at last. But you're right not to listen. Then they aren't true. He turned his head slightly, and she caught a glint of something unreadable in his eyes, pain, maybe, or warning. They're true enough for folks who need monsters to make sense of the dark. She didn't know what to say. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the creak of leather and the hiss of snow against pine. Hours passed. The world narrowed to the rhythm of hooves and breath in the endless sweep of wilderness. The cold bit through her gloves, but she dared not complain. There was something sacred about the quiet, something ancient that demanded respect. As dusk fell, they reached a narrow bridge over a half-frozen river. Elias slowed the horse, scanning the banks. Then he muttered something under his breath. What is it? Clara asked. Tracks, he said. Wolves. Fresh ones. Her stomach tightened. Are we in danger? He gave a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. Not yet. Wolves usually keep to their own. But they're hungry this early in the season. They crossed the bridge and rode on until night fell. When the first flakes began to thicken into a storm, he veered off the trail toward a small cabin half buried in snow. We'll stop here, he said. Is it yours? No. Belonged to a trapper who didn't make it through last winter. Clara shivered. Oh. He dismounted and helped her down. Don't look so grim, teacher. It's got a roof and a stove. Out here, that's heaven. Inside, the cabin was cold but dry. Elias set about lighting a fire with efficient, practiced movements. The light flickered across his face, softening the sharp lines, revealing a quiet weariness behind the hardness. Clara stood near the hearth, thawing her hands. You live up here alone, Mr. Crow. He didn't look up. Ain't much company to be found if you don't want it. Some might call that lonely. He gave a soft grunt. Some ain't met the right kind of silence. The fire crackled between them, warm against the whispering wind outside. Clara wanted to ask more, about his past, about why people feared him, but something about the weight in his eyes told her not to. Instead, she simply said, thank you. For helping me. He looked at her then, really looked, and for a brief moment, the cold in his gaze melted into something else. Don't thank me yet, he said quietly. The mountain don't like strangers. And neither do the ghosts that walk it. And with that, Elias Crow stepped back into the storm to fetch more wood, leaving Clara alone with the fire, and the echo of his warning. The storm raged through the night, clawing at the cabin walls as if the mountain itself wanted to tear them apart. Clara lay awake on the rough cot by the fire, watching the shadows tremble across the ceiling. Elias sat near the hearth, silent as a statue, the orange light carving out the planes of his face. Every so often, he'd glance toward the door, listening. "What is it?" she finally asked, her voice small against the wind. He didn't turn. "You ever heard snow talk?" Clara frowned softly. "No, I don't think so." "Then you don't know how to listen yet." The wind moaned, and for a heartbeat, she thought she did hear something, a low, mournful whisper beneath the storm. She drew the blanket tighter around her. "It sounds like voices." Elias gave a short, humorless laugh. "That's what they say, that the mountain keeps the voices of the ones it's taken." Clara's breath caught. "You mean people who've died up here?" He nodded once. "Trappers, miners, travelers who thought they could outsmart the snow. The mountain don't forgive arrogance." The fire cracked, sending sparks up the chimney. Clara hesitated, then said softly, "And what did it take from you, Mr. Crow?" He went very still. For a long time, he didn't answer. Then, in a voice roughened by memory, he said, "My brother." She turned her head toward him. "I'm sorry." He shrugged, eyes fixed on the flames. "Sorry don't bring back the dead. Folks down in the hollow think I killed him. Say I pushed him into the gorge during a hunting trip. Truth is, I've been trying to forgive myself for not stopping him." Clara's chest tightened. "You mean, he fell?" Elias nodded once, his jaw hardening. "Winter of '73. He was tracking a bear too close to the ridge. I told him to wait. He didn't. Snow gave way under his boots. Never found his body, just his rifle frozen in the river come spring." Silence stretched between them. The storm eased a little, the wind's voice softening into a sigh. Clara said quietly, "And that's why they fear you. Because they don't know the truth." He met her gaze then, and for the first time, she saw not the wildness people whispered about, but grief. Deep and quiet, like a frozen lake beneath the snow. "They needed a villain," he said simply. "And I was too tired to argue." She rose from the cot, walked to where he sat, and gently set her hand on his arm. "Then let me see the man they got wrong." For a moment, he didn't breathe. His eyes flicked from her hand to her face, and something inside him shifted, like the first crack of spring. Ice. But before either could speak again, a sound shattered the stillness, a long, echoing howl from somewhere beyond the trees. Elias stood instantly, grabbing his rifle. "Stay here. Wolves," Clara whispered. "Not just wolves." He threw open the door and stepped into the storm. Snow swirled in, biting her cheeks. She hesitated only a second before grabbing her lantern and following. Outside, the world was white chaos. The storm had slowed but not stopped, and shadows moved at the edge of the treeline. Elias raised his rifle, scanning. Then they both heard it, a human cry. Weak, desperate. "Someone's out there," Clara gasped. Elias cursed under his breath. No one should be this far up the ridge in this weather. He ran forward, boots sinking deep into the snow. Clara followed, lantern held high. The cry came again, and this time they saw a figure half buried near the frozen creek, a man, his leg twisted beneath him. Elias dropped to his knees, brushing snow from the stranger's face. Recognition flickered across his features. Jasper Haynes. Clara looked between them. "You know him." Elias's tone turned grim. "Miner. And the kind that never travels alone." Sure enough, more shapes emerged through the white. 3 men, rifles slung, eyes sharp with greed. "Crow," one of them called. "Didn't expect to find you playin' nurse." Elias rose slowly. "Your man's hurt. He won't make it back in this weather." The leader smirked. "Ain't your concern. You just step aside and hand over the lady." Clara's heart leapt to her throat. What do they want?" Elias shifted, placing himself between her and the men. "They've been running moonshine through these hills. The law's closing in, and they think I've been the one sending word." "Have you?" she whispered. He didn't answer. "Crow." The man barked. "You've got one chance to walk away." Elias's reply was a soft, dangerous growl. "And you've got one chance to regret this." Then the snow exploded with gunfire. Clara dropped behind a fallen log as Elias fired back, each shot clean, controlled, purposeful. The night lit with flashes of light, echoing off the cliffs like thunder. The outlaws scattered, retreating toward the trees. When the smoke cleared, one man lay still, the others gone. Elias lowered his rifle, breath fogging the cold air. "You hurt?" he asked Clara. She shook her head, trembling. "No, but they'll come back." He nodded grimly. "Not tonight. They'll wait for daylight." They dragged the wounded man into the cabin, though Elias knew it was hopeless. The miner's wound was too deep, his skin already paling. Before dawn, he was gone. Clara sat beside the dying fire, staring at the body. "What will you do?" Elias cleaned his rifle with calm precision. "Bury him come morning. Then get you to Elk Hollow before the others find the trail." She rose, voice firm. "No, I'm not leaving you to face them alone." He looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "You don't even know me, Clara." She met his gaze. "I know enough. Enough to see that the man everyone warned me about is the one they all should have trusted." He stared at her for a long moment, and then, for the first time since she'd met him, Elias Crow smiled. It wasn't much, just the ghost of one, but it thawed something deep and forgotten in him. Outside, dawn crept over the mountains, spilling gold over the snow. The storm had passed, but its echo lingered, and so did the beginning of something neither of them could yet name. Because sometimes the mountain didn't just take. Sometimes, it gave back what the heart had long lost.